Welcome to the Sanctus Forum, the broadcasting side of Sanctus, which is a Europe-based institute promoting theology and spiritual formation. Today we're talking about the Brothers Karamazov. I've got my reader friend here, Mark Williamson, with me, who has done his master's dissertation on this, just trying to build him up here. We had a great discussion video last time. If you didn't see that, check it out. We're going to continue that discussion, trying to help people feel more confident about taking on a book like this. Hopefully this is the beginning of a series and we can talk about other great books. Let us know how we're doing, whether you've read the book or not, and what other books you think in theology and spirituality I could sit together with one of my reader friends and doing. So here we are. Mark, hey, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah, you're wearing the same clothes.
It's amazing. What a coincidence.
Yeah. Oh. And so am I, because it's a lot easier to film everything on one day. Mark, you were saying something to me when we first were discussing this book about the situation in which it kind of arose from. And do you mind repeating that again?
Sure, let me try. So, and let me try and remember this properly. I think Dostoevsky is writing this in the late 1870s, and then early 1880. It was published in installments, and that I think he died in 1881. So it's the final book of his career. Although actually he wanted to write a far bigger sequel to it, but then never got the opportunity. One of the things I look forward to in heaven, actually, here's an aside, that he's been working on this maybe for the past 100 years, and we're going to get to read it when we get there. But when you look back now, I think you can see why in 1917 Russia had a communist revolution. Because in Dostoevsky's time, so a generation earlier, all of the leading intellectuals, thinkers, writers, philosophers, they're all grappling with the same question of saying, something is broken, something is wrong in Russian society. We need to change it. And a lot of people are looking at revolution as a means of doing that, saying we need to change our system of government. Probably we need to change the way that we are educating people. We need to change the way that we are living. What's the best vehicle for doing that, for creating a better society? Yeah. And so I think this novel is partly Dostoevsky's answer to that. He's kind of written other ones, like Crime and Punishment and The Devils, which are a critique of the concept of, hey, revolution, let's have a revolution. Yeah. And he's saying, no, that's not really going to change anything, because you're just going to have different people in charge. But the problem is in our hearts. And so then it's like, okay, well, let's look at Western philosophy and stuff like egoism and determinism and utilitarianism and these new philosophies people are talking about. If we just lived in that kind of way in this, but it's kind of an atheistic humanism, then people will get better. And Dostoevsky is saying, no, actually, that doesn't go deep enough in changing the heart. And therefore he comes to this profoundly spiritual Christian answer of, if we want to make society better, there's no point in having a revolution out there. There needs to be a change in our hearts, and something needs to deal with the sin and the evil. And the best way to do that is, he doesn't say it this nakedly, but it's basically follow Jesus. That's the best solution for society. And I read this as an undergraduate, and then, doing a master's degree. And I think having an intellectual heavyweight, like Dostoevsky is considered to be in those discussions, come out with something so profound, but so spiritual, was really, I guess, encouraging for me, because I was at the beginning of my faith journey as well at the time. And to realize, hey, there are intellectual heavyweights, and there have been throughout all of history. It's so easy to forget this. There are intellectual heavyweights who are Christians who are saying, Jesus is the answer. It's not just your Sunday school teacher who's teaching you that.
Yeah.
It's Kierkegaard, it's Dostoevsky, it's Kant, it's so many of these great minds have been saying the same thing.
Yeah. I as you're saying this, this sort of sense of revolution, that word just rings in my mind now. And we've been in this for a long time, I think, that is Western society. A sense that we need a revolution. There's something wrong with our respective countries, and we've got to have some sort of radical change. And in this year, 2020, but as well as some of the previous years, we've had strong movements towards that, to sort of I'm an American, and so there's plenty to be said about why America feels like it's on the cusp of some sort of crisis, and lots of different groups saying, we have the answer, put us in power, or trying through still democratic means to assume power. And I think that's a good reason why this book can be so relevant to us now. To read in a time like this, it's very countercultural in that sense. To sort of think, okay, my response to all of this craziness and uncertainty is to spend so many long hours finishing a book like this and trying to take it to heart, and like you've suggested, thinking about whether the problem isn't with me and the way that I am living from the inside. I think too, like one of the things we've seen here in 2020 is the Black Lives Matter movement.
Sure.
And just a large group of people, black people, and all sorts of other groups sort of standing with them and saying, we need some sort of change. And sometimes the answers to that, like what could change, are not that clear.
Yeah.
And I wonder what could be infused into that movement for anybody that's concerned about it, if they said, well, let's commit ourselves to reading a book like this.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that would be amazing if we could get everyone to read this on both sides of that divide. And I think that's one of the incredible things about following Jesus, isn't it? That it gives you a framework for how do you overcome evil. It's saying there is injustice, there is racism, it's real. Some worldviews would say, oh, it's all a mirage, or suffering doesn't really exist. Christianity says, no, this stuff is real. But then it also gives us, in following Jesus, a tool for trying to use non-violence as and love, actually, as a means of overcoming injustice. Jesus teaches, love your enemies, bless those who persecute you. I love Paul's kind of paraphrase of that. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with love. And I think that's what you see in the Brothers Karamazov, that in trying to fight evil, it is so easy to take on evil. So Black Lives Matter, in trying to fight systemic racism, it's so easy for that struggle to become violent. But that's us then becoming overcome by evil instead of overcoming evil with love.
Yeah.
And the Brothers Karamazov has so many great examples of love and of grace actually transforming individuals. And if you transform enough individuals, that's how you transform society.
Yeah.
Yeah. The message is so relevant.
Yeah. thinking about evil, and then the evil in this book, the characters that have wicked thoughts, and I think what we maybe missed in the last video, we never actually told people what, like, gave them a taste of the plot. I guess you could always read it on the back cover, but
go on, give us your starter for 10. How would you summarize the plot?
So Mark did say that there's a courtroom scene at the end, and that's on the basis of a murder that happens roughly in the middle of the book. But you've got a long time before that murder takes place, and you've got a long time after it takes place, so it's not exactly a murder mystery. What it really is a book about a family. So the brothers Karamazov, that's rather obvious, and their father. And you hear some about their backstory and how the brothers came into the world. They are, as families are, very different people, and they don't always fit together quite well and work together quite well. And the main character, the one that Dostoevsky has sort of put out in the front, is the youngest brother, who is Alyosha, and Alyosha is an aspiring monk. He wants to be accepted into the monastery in their small town. He is enamored with what they call an elder. It's not exactly like an abbot like we would have in Western monasticism, but as a more like a very highly respected spiritual leader, respected not less for the office but more for their sort of spirituality, their life,
spiritual direction.
Yeah, for their capabilities in spiritual direction. So he's enamored with him, and you'll find out a lot about Father Zosima is his name in the book, and then about all the other brothers, which sort of leads to sort of a climax in the murder, and then then the novel kind of goes on, and you hear sort of the after story and how that's resolved. But the resolution isn't just, who done it, but how the family comes to live with each other and live with themselves. Yeah.
It's interesting, as you're talking about the family, I just thought of another link as well, and part of what I love is the depth of psychology on all these characters. You feel like you get to know them all,
Yeah.
So the father being this voluptuary character, you've got the Dmitri, the passionate, hot-headed one, Ivan, the intellectual, Alyosha, the novice. You get inside all their heads, you feel like you know them. And then as you're talking, it just reminded me, I don't know if anyone's ever made this link before, to The Godfather, which is a story about a father and 3 sons, actually, isn't it?
Right. That's right.
You've got the passionate, hot-headed one in Sonny. You've got, I guess, Fredo, the less gifted one, but wanting to have a role. Yeah. And then Michael, the more cold, rational one, and the transformation that he goes on. As a family drama, The Godfather is so compelling. And is that another reason why you should read this novel? Because it's it in many ways is different to The Godfather. I want to set it up for something it's not. But it has that family dynamic going on, and getting to know each of those. The sons almost become archetypes, but they don't become stereotypes. They're no less real as characters in that. You know, but they take on those different roles. Right.
And you get to know them way better. I don't know if you read the book, The Godfather, or just watched the films as I have, but you get to know the characters really well, almost better than you maybe even want to sometimes. And that's something that you were telling to me. You gave me the word that this is a psychological novel.
Yeah.
And that Dostoevsky is a psychological novelist. I think that really helped me see what was happening in this, and I'll let you explain what that means a bit. But you hear the thoughts of all these characters.
Yeah.
And that helped me to sort of link it to sort of some modern genres, really modern as in our time, that are very well loved, sort of memoirs and autobiographies, to these really gritty memoirs that we have now of people talking about, their, deepest problems, or, their difficult childhood, to just the reality TV things, which aren't exactly so much reality as much, or things like the vlogging, the daily vlogging, where you see into people's lives, and you see details that get cut out in those Hollywood dramas, because they have so little time. But with this book, you actually get a sense of what these people are really after and thinking, and their motivations, and that. You have anything more enlightening on psychological novels?
I don't know. You get inside their heads, and you feel like you know these people, and you understand why they are making the decisions that they are making, and it all seems perfectly. Well, it's not always rational, because a lot of the decision making is emotional, but it's perfectly realistic.
Yeah.
These depictions. There's nothing superficial, I guess, in any of those characters and their characterization. They all definitely feel like three-dimensional, real people that you've got to know by the end of the novel.
Yeah.
And you can understand, therefore, almost the strengths and the drawbacks of each of their worldviews. There's something so profound and deep about that. And actually maybe relates to one of the things you talked about. I feel like a lot of the novel, it's not long descriptive passages of nature or of landscapes. It's either kind of them internalizing and you understanding their thoughts, or it's these long dialogues. But both of them help you get to understand better what's going on in their heads.
Yeah. And that's perhaps, and let's perhaps leave people with this, a bit of a warning or caution. Sometimes you, perhaps like a counselor might think, you hear way more about what's going on in this person's head than you possibly wish to, and you start to sort of skip ahead in the pages and think, when is this kind of guy gonna stop talking? And it's something that requires a bit of discipline, I think, when you're reading the book, or at least perhaps a fair warning that Dostoevsky lets the characters talk.
Yes.
And not exactly the most brilliant and well spoken of them.
Yes.
So it's part of how he's trying to tell his story, and it's just something to keep in mind, that just don't get discouraged when you encounter this stuff, because not that everything will make sense that the character says, but it will give you, as you are patient with the characters, a better sense of who they are. Yeah.
Patience, but it is so, your patience is rewarded, isn't it? And it does take, for me, maybe it took 100 or so pages to get into it, but then kind of you get to this point where you feel like, oh, I understand these people. I feel like I understand now what's going on. But it does take a while to cross that bridge and get into it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching this week. Next week, or whenever the other video is, or maybe you see them all at the same time, we want to talk a bit more about the Christian themes in the book, and a bit more about some of the the way in which Dostoevsky fleshes out that sense of following Jesus, and that being the answer for a society which is at a crossroads. Thanks for watching, getting all the way to the end of this. Please like these videos if you do, and subscribe if you haven't already. And Mark and I will see you in the next video. So, ta-ta.
Bye for now.